And we are live a little bit early, actually, which makes a nice change for me. Hello, and welcome to the Midday Show. Hope you're okay. I'm not a saint, I'm not a sinner, but I am 2 pounds thinner. Yes. Just sharing the weight loss journey with everyone because I felt very smug when I got on the scales this morning. And we do have, we have two guests, which is absolutely fantastic. We have Rahel and Ellie, who I'm going to bring on. I've messaged Ellie and I've asked Ellie if we can make it 12:30. It's a bit of a last minute one for Ellie, as the show tends to be flying by the seat of its pants. So, Ellie, if we could come to you at 12:30, I would really, really appreciate that. You're nodding. Okay, that's absolutely brilliant. So let's bring my first guest on, who I met on the comedy circuit, Rahel Ahmad. Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really, really good. Thank you. I'm really, really good. Welcome to the Midday Show. Let's pop your banner on the screen. Do you have a website where I can direct people to, first of all?
Just probably like my Instagram, which is at Raheel Deal. Yeah.
At Raheel?
Deal. So the Raheel Deal. Yeah.
Nice. I see what you did there. Very nice.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get that on. So I met you at the Garage Comedy in South Wimbledon.
Yeah.
In the Horse and Groom. How long have you been running the club?
So I was actually going through my notebooks, and I think it's been 6 months now, coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. So
how's it going? Running an open mic night is fraught with dangers, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, so because obviously I'm from Scotland originally, and been doing the circuit up there. You know, it was a lot easier to do like paid weekend spots up there, and then I came down to London to do my masters, and basically found it easier to just set up a night rather than try and approach bookers and email.
Again, it's all absolutely fraught, isn't it? How long have you been in the comedy game then?
So I've been going for about, I think coming up for like 9 years. So it's always a weird one if you include the pandemic or not. So
did you do any online stuff in the pandemic?
I did. I actually feel like I gigged more online than I usually do live during the pandemic. So
I think I was broadcasting virtual DJ parties for about a year and a half, which was fun. But I've never been so busy. Unfortunately, it was all unpaid. But there you go. But hey, that's all sort of drifted into the mists of time. It was a strange time, but I remember there being quite a lot of online gigs at the time.
I think my most notable one was probably a charity gig for the RNIB. So the and basically making jokes about, you know, it doesn't matter if the connection freezes because probably most of you can't see me anyway.
Because you can get away with stuff like that when you do comedy.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most? Because you emceed the gig. Do you enjoy emceeing or doing the sets? What's your best?
I think they're two different kind of skill sets, definitely. I probably do enjoy emceeing more now, just because, you know, you don't stick to the material. You get to be a bit more free flowing with everything, and then, you know, talking to the audience as well. I think that's something that's a bit more fun than maybe doing the same material and jokes that you've constantly been doing the whole time.
Yes, absolutely. And it gives an opportunity to do the crowd work. I mean, I'm not a particularly good MC. I would love to. I just need to get out there and learn and do it more. I've got a set which I'm pleased with, but MCing, like you say, completely different skill set. And a good MC can make or break a night. It really can, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, so we had a bit of teething problems because I think you were asking, like, how has it been going? And originally we were in the main bar area. And I kind of had to tell them to switch the music off when the acts were on and stuff like that, and switch the TV off behind the acts. And then we kind of moved to another room in the back. And then for the third month, then we ended up in the garage. And that's when at like 2:00 in the morning, I came up with the name, the Gag Garage. So it was like, but it's been going all right there. We did have an older headliner who, Ivor Demba, and he was basically saying, I think you need to move back inside now that it's cold.
He's been in the game for ages. He was
Yeah,
on the night that I was on, wasn't he? He was headlining, and I
yeah, yeah.
recognise that name. He's been going, oh goodness, since the 90s. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, I
Probably.
mean, yeah, I think, yeah, before I was born. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of names. It's my second time round on the
Mm,
circuit, my second go round, and I'm some of the names I go on. I remember you from the 90s. I remember you from the 90s, and there's a lot of great new talent as well.
mm.
And bringers and stayers didn't exist in the 90s either, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
I think that's another kind of shock to the system, moving from Scotland to down here and seeing kind of how many like subpar kind of gigs get put on where, like, not to be too harsh about them, but if you've got to bring somebody with you to perform, then it kind of means that the venue isn't really doing their job promoting it, and
Mm.
it kind of makes it a bit of a weird atmosphere if you've got
It can do, and you have to have
10
a
hostages.
very understanding set of friends that keep coming to your open
Yeah.
mic gigs. And watch.
Oh, and they'll be sick of it. They'll be like dead behind the eyes listening to it. They probably know it better than the act.
I
So
know, I know. It
um,
is only a London thing, though, isn't it? Bringers and stayers.
yeah, it's never happened up in Scotland. So
No, is it easier the market up in Scotland? Would you say?
I don't know. I think, and again, I think maybe it's because there's the audiences are maybe a bit harder in Scotland, or the people are a bit more. Um, I don't want to say like harsh, but they're definitely going to tell you if they're not happy with what's going on. Whereas I
I
think
mean,
down
I can
here,
imagine an
um,
average pub in Glasgow on a,
yeah,
you know,
it's definitely a lot of fun. Yeah, but
yeah.
I think that's a good way to learn. When you try harder gigs in different rooms. So I would say that room in a garage, it's in a unique kind of environment to try your comedy out. So
Well, it is. It's difficult being in the main pub. I can understand why you moved it because I've done those
mm,
gigs, and you walk into the pub, and sometimes the people working in the pub don't appreciate what a comedy gig is. Almost, they don't
yeah,
realise that you do kind of need the music off. Then and the TV screens off, because if you've got people shouting and chanting at the football while you're trying to do your set, it's not the most easy thing, is it? And a lot of the people have just come for a drink and they couldn't give two stuffs
yeah,
about the comedy, and they clink in their glasses up to the bar in the middle of it, and you
mm,
can either get annoyed about it or laugh it off. So I just try and laugh it off, but I definitely think a
yeah.
separate room is better. Comment from Philip Harling. I used to MC a local folk club, adding comedy and improvisation, which I was comfortable with. I couldn't do a stand-up routine, always forgot my lines, and would just freeze and end up dying. Now that's interesting, because I would say improv is harder. Do you do any improv?
I have done. So that was in Edinburgh and Glasgow. I've done like the wee courses, like, because they're all kind of culty with their memberships and their courses, the 101 and the 201, and try to
Yeah,
make it seem a bit more, I don't know, like a learning or a class.
yeah.
But yeah, because I think there's that whole thing of you have to say yes, and you can't block somebody's idea and stuff like that, and then obviously the more you do it, then they're like, well, actually you can if it serves the scene and stuff like that. So um
Oh yeah, that
yeah,
sounds a bit like psychology courses. You can't say yes, but you always it's always take what you're given, isn't it? Yes, and
yeah, exactly,
rather than yeah, but shuts it down. In the
yeah,
psychology course that I did, they say nice, but and then
mm,
you got the middle ground, which is a however, which is it's a gentleman's but.
yeah,
I agree. However, uh, they used to call that, but yeah, that is. I haven't done much improv. Someone who
mm,
does it for a living actually came around my house and taught me and a couple of mates one night. It was a very joyful thing to do. It was an awful lot of fun, but to
yeah.
do it on stage, not sure. But again, it's all the practice. Was that at the Fringe? Have you done a Fringe show? Or?
No, so I've just done it in like what they call them, like jams,
Mm.
and so it's like a workshop, and then there'll be audience, and then you kind of perform afterwards. So it's
Mm.
I think the kind of next level when you're doing improv is to have like a team, so a set of performers that
Mm.
you'll keep going back with. But I only ever really did it on my own, so I'm just naturally joining a group of people.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, it was good. I think my favorite thing about improv is how kind of close it is to acting.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the emotion that you kind of inhabit and how you play a scene. So that
Mm.
for me was more interesting, where it was okay, find the emotion in the scene and then play that up. And I think my favourite, and I don't know if this was in a proper comment I was meant to hear, but there was a sad scene where I essentially went on stage and was like, "Why does nobody want me?" And like the way that I delivered it, the teacher was like, "Oh God," like, but I hope in a good way, like so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, no one can say that you didn't take what you were given. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Well, that was
Yeah.
the emotion, and I definitely played it. So yeah.
That's the whole point, though. Play up to it. I mean, I have been to improv nights with the
Mhm.
real pros, and it's very, very clever. It's
Yeah,
when done well, it's very, very funny indeed. I remember
yeah.
you talking about comedy
Mhm.
and mental health and the connection, and that's what I thought. Oh, I really want to chat to you about that on the Midday Show, because we talk about well-being quite a lot on this show. So
Yeah.
tell me about that. I know there's an awful lot of. I think there's quite a few people on the circuit doing their therapy, if you
Mhm.
like.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And a lot of people build, whatever struggles they've had into their set quite a lot. Some people say there's too much of it. I'm on the fence. I'm not judgmental about it
Mm.
at all. But what's the connection for you?
Yeah, so well, I do my own therapy as well. Like so that's but I'm doing a master's at Queen Mary University in creative arts and mental health. So
Oh,
yeah, that's basically been the journey to get there was kind of long, I suppose. So I mean, my undergraduate is now like about 15 years ago. I did law, and there's always that idea of helping people or arguing a case, and then finished that, realized I didn't want to be a lawyer, worked in a bank, realized I hated that, and then had to take some time out to care for family, and then tried to get back into work. Ended up working for a TV company doing development research. Didn't really enjoy the kind of environment that was as well. And then the kind of pandemic happened, and then I decided to become a therapist during the pandemic. And then from that, so all the while I was doing stand up comedy, probably before the TV gig, and it was one of those things where they were kind of like you have to be in front of the camera or behind it, and I was lucky enough to get like a spot on BBC Scotland. They had a show called The Comedy Underground, so it kind of was like
yeah.
a way of like them saying, right, well, if you want to do that, pursue that more seriously. Um, and then so yeah, while I was in the kind of pandemic area, I think we all realised how much our mental healths were impacted, and there was only so many jokes you can do about certain things.
I
Um,
don't know if that just brought a load of stuff to the surface, or whether
mm,
it actually affected people's mental health when they were healthy before, or a bit of both, or a combination of
Probably a
both.
bit of both, yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like so the like my first show that I did was called Bad Muslim, Good Grandson, and it's about like a lot of the caring kind of role for my grandparents, and with them in their older age, they don't really get out that much, and so my granddad was like, I don't know what everybody's complaining about. My life hasn't changed in the pandemic, because he
Yes.
wasn't leaving the house anyway.
No, no.
Yeah, so I think so from there, I couldn't really decide what type of therapy to, practice.
So you're a
And
therapist now.
so I'm still training. That's why the masters is there. Is so it's I'm not going to be a fully qualified therapist after it, but I've basically studied nearly every form of therapy to decide which one I want to do. Um,
Which one's your favourite?
yeah, so that I mean I should have an answer to that, but because the course is quite
Or which ones
unique.
have you enjoyed?
Well, to undergo or to practice.
Either. I
Or,
mean, I'm not asking you personal questions.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You feel free not to answer anything, but I really mean more. By all means,
yeah.
talk
I
about
think
yourself if you want. But other people, which one have you most enjoyed to
I
practice?
yeah, I think well, from a studying point of view, there is that idea of you do a bit of a questionnaire to see which one you're more in tune with, and
Oh,
the
right.
one that I was least in tune with was psychodynamic, which to me meant that I should pursue that. And like I said, because I wasn't really sure, going back into your childhood and all of those kind of formative memories, I think that's the one that has the most long-term effect, probably for clients. But yeah, so because of the course being quite unique, it's half drama and performance and it's half psychiatry based. And so with doing comedy alongside, it was kind of a case of actually, is there a therapeutic intervention using stand-up comedy that I could maybe try and put my own kind of practice and lived experience in? So I think for me, it's a bit of everything. They always have these combined courses.
I didn't even know such a thing existed. I think that's brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very aware that performing arts can be used to heal.
Mhm.
Very, very much so. It's just a question of creating a safe context to express what you can't really express in normal society. Or there aren't enough safe containers to express things that people might be
Yeah.
holding in. It could be holding them back. Here we go. This guy's a thesaurus. The
Mhm.
psychodynamic, analytical, easy for me to
Mhm.
say, permeated form of therapy is the one that I'm currently embarking on insofar as counselling is concerned. There we go. So
Yeah.
psychodynamic, is that going back and finding the root cause and then processing the
Yeah,
root
it's more
cause?
more of your typical Freudian kind of
Yes.
analysis. Yeah, and I think so. When I finished the first, so there's I think it's about 2.5, 3 years to qualify. So I did the first postgraduate
Mm.
part in Scotland, part over Zoom, part in person, and they give you the kind of like trade show kind of feel where you go and speak to each provider of the next step of the course.
Yeah.
And when I went to the psychodynamic table, I went, give me your sales pitch. And the guy just went, no. And so I was kind of like, okay, that's maybe why I'm not resonating the most with that. But I was like, this guy got me because now I'm thinking about this more than the other ones. Whereas everybody else were from friendly organizations, like with like big banners, like saying smile and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, well, they're really trying quite hard to get me involved. Whereas this guy was like,
That was
I
kind
don't
of
care if you do it or not.
counterintuitive. It was like, yeah, tell me all about
Yeah.
it. Well, so
Yeah.
made you want it more. That's a clever sales pitch, very counterintuitive. But
Well,
I
yeah,
suppose it
there
is
you go.
psychology, isn't it?
Typical reverse psychology. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
very, very, very much so. And is
Mm.
it fun? Is it fun to do? I mean, the performing arts bit must be good. So what's a typical
Yeah.
sort of day? How would you blend that in a typical sort of day while you're training?
So there's like different modules. The one that I enjoyed the most, I would say, is well, the two is performing mental health, which is quite obvious. You analyze like movies, TV, plays, and then I got to do a bit of a talk on my own stand up comedy within that. Um, but then the text self performance, where it got a bit more kind of abstract, so not your typical. Um, like get up and do a monologue or talk or just do jokes. So I ended up doing a comedy lecture about what is stand-up comedy, and within that you're supposed to build all of your kind of identities. And I feel like I naturally do that as well, but maybe it's harder to convey those kind of threads or nuance in a 10-minute set or a 20-minute set. Um, but I think so a typical day would be your tutorials, which are like your 2 hours, a small group, and then going through just the stuff. So there's also a dissertation, which is my main thing to get done for January. So
Mm.
yeah.
Must be a lot of hours put into it.
Well, that's what I should be saying, yeah. But it's typical, isn't it? Being a student again. But I'm in my 30s now, and it's kind of it feels like I'm just kind of gone back in time a wee bit. But the difference is I'm not studying law to practice something. I'm studying
Yeah.
counselling, which I feel like is a much better use of kind of that energy and argumentation even. So I think to go back to that, what's the best type of therapy? I think for me it would be some sort of dialectical behavioral therapy. So maybe where you more
Explain.
challenge people and you kind of, it's almost like arguing with their own mental illness and their kind of approach to how they're thinking. So that
Well,
falls under the
that's
CBT
interesting, isn't it? Because there's
model.
so many
Yeah.
schools of psychotherapy out there.
Yeah.
Psychodynamic, and I'm just talking as a very lay person here, so do correct me.
Mm.
Psychodynamic, I would imagine, like you say, is quite Freudian. So you go back and find the why.
Yeah.
And then I would presume process it from there, because you wouldn't just find out why and then, okay, now we know why you are the way you are. Bye. You know.
Yeah. But it's not
It's
even
not the same, but at least you know why. Whoopee. You know.
I feel like it's not always even just the why. I think it's just understanding how your parents have formed you in your early memories and how you interact with the world, and then that
Yes.
might give you an insight into something else, which might then do that.
Yes.
You know, so
Which it's a whole journey, isn't it? As you go deeper into yourself, I suppose, with the help of the
yeah,
therapist. CBT, Mehar is talking about that. He says, in stark contrast to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, that primarily tenders coping mechanisms to accommodate the symptoms affiliated with the condition. I told you he's a thesaurus. The psychodynamic mode of therapy addresses the root causes. Yes, CBT. I'm familiar with CBT. That's kind of the high street one, isn't it? If you go to your doctor, that'll probably be their go-to CBT, and that's all about identifying your own thought distortions, isn't it? So if you say, for example, this never works out for me, that's a I think they call that a magnification or an absolute or something like that.
yeah,
Nothing ever works out for you. So I think there's about 12 different thought distortions in CBT, isn't there? There's NLP. Have you done any NLP? That's quite interesting stuff.
I mean, I've just watched, the programs on TV, and I think I've read some Paul McKenna books about it. But that's generally more, what is it, like stop smoking and stop overeating and stuff like that. But
in the self-help books, NLP is not about the why; it's more about the how. How are they doing that in their minds?
It's a form of like hypnosis. I almost said psychosis, but no, that's not. But yeah. So whereas like with your CBT, because that's easier for the NHS to fund, that's the thing that is easier to quantify the results. So my mum was a therapist, and basically her favorite one was person-centered. Because it was more, it's not really quantifiable. You work with the person and they kind of guide the session and whatever tools you want to bring up and use is better, whereas CBT kind of feels a bit more like workbook or challenging the thought process more directly. So, I mean, it depends on what the individual's kind of looking for. But I think for, we're an evolved species, we're a storytelling people, we would all, I think, like to understand, more about the meaning for that. Me personally, a bit more existential thought and building that relationship. Whereas I think for CBT, it's almost like going to the dentist, and nobody likes going to the dentist.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yes, I do know what you mean. It depends how deep you want to go. I suppose in the age of a quick fix, CBT or actually NLP can be, particularly NLP, can be very, very quick.
Or like hypnotherapy as well. That works for some people,
Some people absolutely swear by it. I know some brilliant hypnotherapists. I've seen Paul McKenna's hypnotic show before he went into self-help, which was very funny. I'm not skeptical about it. I believe it works. Whether it works on me, I'm not sure.
Well, you have to let it work. I think that's the key thing.
That's the thing, because I've got this ADHD mind that goes, why? What's happening now? What's happening now? Can you explain this to me? What's happening now? So yeah, couple of comments. You're getting some comedy love here. Rahel just watched a bit of your routine. Very good. Love to get that coming home drunk to your grandparents.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And meet Dr. Asa Don Brown. He's very high up in the psychological community in the USA and in Canada. Rahel, I served on a board for dementia of the creative arts for a number of years. The board was started in British Columbia, beautiful British Columbia, by a dear friend, and it eventually went global. The creative arts have an important role in psychological care. By the way, psychodynamic is an important part of my professional training. So you're in good company there.
Yeah. I think that's the another thing is where. I don't want to be too insulting to lawyers, but it's a different kind of motivation that I was almost going to say a different breed of people, but there's a different motivation in life, I think, and the way I like to think of it is if you really want to help people, seeing them as therapists is probably better than they have a problem in their life and then they need a lawyer. So I'm in a way, I think I'm preventing some lawyers from making their money down the line.
I think it's a public service. Yeah, it's a public
Yeah.
protecting people from lawyers. No, I don't.
Mm.
I think there's room for all of it.
Yeah.
I've often wondered if I was in law, which I'm not. Could
Mhm.
I defend someone that I knew was guilty? Could I provide a defence to someone that I knew was guilty and argue that they weren't? And I don't think I could. But
Yeah.
law's a challenging thing to do, isn't it? It's
Mm.
a hard slog, law, isn't it? I hear.
Well, it's the same thing with counselling. Would you be able to give therapy to somebody who's committed a crime or done something heinous? And I think that's a big part of when you learn is that you'll have your own kind of boundaries that you would or wouldn't be able to cross. So it's like anything. I think suppose yeah, it's a case by case basis, But I think to answer that question in a roundabout way, when I was thinking of being a lawyer, I would have been a criminal lawyer. So I think that's just a case of forcing the other party to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt, which that's me remembering from 14 years ago. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, whereas with counselling, I think it's more a case of can you show compassion to people that maybe haven't shown it to other people or themselves? Um,
Which
and I think,
arguably could be more challenging. I mean, I suppose
yeah,
we all need boundaries in life, including
mhm,
professional boundaries. I mean, to answer your question, could I give therapy if I was a therapist to someone that had done something heinous at the right
mm,
distance? Probably yes, but I wouldn't
mm,
be pretending they were innocent and trying to convince people they were innocent when they
yeah.
weren't. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, you don't tell them that they're a good guy. You don't, you're there, you've got a job to do basically as well. But I think ultimately it's to kind of, well, with law, I don't think there's any room for growth for a person if you get a criminal off from committing a crime. But whereas with
No,
maybe working with somebody that's committed a crime or done something terrible, hopefully you would help them learn some sort of contrition and, hopefully better themselves in some way.
yes, or perhaps understand why
Mhm.
what the influences were that conditioned them to do it. Give them tools so
Yeah.
they can make better choices next time, I suppose.
Yeah, but
Along
the
the way.
research is a bit more pessimistic on that front. Apparently, if you give counselling and talk therapy to criminals, it just makes them better criminals. You
Oh
teach them how
no!
to you teach them how to lie better and like empathize and manipulate. So
Yeah, but these are a little bit rose tinted. Maybe I haven't seen those studies.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
Mm.
When's your next gig, Rahel?
That's a good question. So I just again, like I said, it's easier to kind of just put on that ice. So it's going to be at the Horse and Groom next month.
South Wimbledon.
Yeah, it's South Wimbledon on Friday the 7th of November, and that will be I think from about 8 o'clock, so 8 until 10:30. But in terms of just I'm always writing. I'm probably writing more jokes than I am actually, words for my dissertation. But I'll end up just popping up at an open mic sometimes and just trying some stuff out, which I feel like is a nice kind of low stakes way of doing that, as opposed to like a poster or these like video graphics that go about with people that are like promoting it. Whereas if you can just kind of turn up on the day and have no expectation and just try out some new jokes, I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of the
Because there's no other way of doing it. Because sometimes
yeah.
things are hilarious in my head, particularly if I've had a drink or something.
Mm,
I think, oh God, that's funny. And then I'll write it on the
yeah.
back of my hand, and then I'll shower the next morning and try and work out what I've written on the back of my hand.
But that's
What
that's the
was so
thing
funny
you
last
can
night, and would it still be funny this morning?
yeah. So I feel like that's the thing is like people ask like how do you write, and I think the
Yeah, how do
most
you write?
honest answer for all comedians is on stage, because it's you might write whatever you want on a notebook and you might read it back and forth or practice it, but actually when you're in that moment, being observed on stage, I think that's when you'll change it, you'll change the order up, you'll interact with the audience, you'll
Very much
weave
so.
the
Yeah,
narrative.
it's all
So
feedback, isn't it? It's
yeah.
all feedback and all necessary. I mean, I learned
Mhm.
the other day that saying phlebotomy in a sort of late night radio voice is funny to people, and And that came from being at a gig. I would have never sat down and wrote that. Phlebotomy, of all things.
Yeah.
Apparently, when you say it in a late night radio voice, it's quite funny. Well, we got a laugh last night anyway. Well, so people can check your Insta. I'm sure there's some interesting posts up there. It's been lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
I met some great new folks second time round on the circuit, yourself included. Good luck with your gig. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back. And yeah, thanks for having me. It's been.
I would love to come back. Yeah, I'd love to come back and do some more for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I enjoyed performing there. So, Rahel, all the very best with everything. Take the best of care and keep in touch with the Midday Show. If you like, I'll send you this footage later.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I get to see how the green screen works in the recording.
Not bad at all, actually. I like the brick background. It's like that's typical sort of American comedy club, isn't it? It looks.
Yeah, I do even have like a broadcast mic, and I thought that would be too much. So, like,
not at all. No, not at all. Not at all.
But no, yeah. Thanks again for having us, and yeah, I'm sure.
You're welcome. Just private message me your email address. I've got your email address already, haven't I?
Yeah, you do. That's
I'll send that through to you later.
No
Rahel Ahmad, thank you so much. At Rahel Deal. Yes.
Real deal. Yeah. Take care then. All right.
Take care. Bye. All the best. There we go. There's guest number one. Good fun. Nice guy. Really nice guy as well. And guest number 2. 3, 2, 1. Let's bring her on. It's only Ellie Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. Good Lord. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Neil. Thanks for having me on today. It's brilliant to be here.
It's very lovely. I always like looking at people's backgrounds. So I'm looking at you, particularly if it's a bookshelf. I always try and look in and see what sort of stuff they read. But yours looks absolutely fascinating. So I'm getting a kind of kids' book vibe here.
Absolutely. I'd love to say this is my bookshelf, but this is all of my own books that I write. And over the years, I've now got 8 titles in the series. They're all true stories about the environment, and they're aimed at primary and preschool age children. So anything from litter picking and plastic pollution in the sea to climate change and habitat loss and what we can do to all help look after our animals.
Tell us all about it then. What got you? You obviously got a passion for this, otherwise you wouldn't write about it, I guess.
I suppose it started for me growing up in the 80s, visiting the beaches. And I remember going to one particular beach. It was a big Atlantic facing beach. It was on a remote island. No one else had been there. Everything that washed up on this beach had come from the ocean, and we'd find treasures. We'd find coconuts that had come washing across from Mexico and the Caribbean. And I remember finding this seed pod, and we didn't know what it was. It was like a conker, but it was squished flat, and we thought this is a strange thing to find on a beach in Wales. And we sent it off to Kew Gardens, and they came back and they said this is from the Amazon rainforest, and it had floated, washed across the sea all the way thousands of miles, and ended up on this beach in Wales. And so from a very young age, I felt very connected to the world around me. But also on this beach was a horrendous amount of plastic. And of course, back then, it wasn't called plastic in the ocean. It was flotsam and jetsam. And it was an adventure. And we'd play with this plastic rubbish, and we'd find things written in Spanish and Chinese and wondered where it had come from and how it got there.
Except it's not a game. It's not a game, is it?
Exactly.
I always thought... I never knew that was... I never... would have thought that was called flotsam and jetsam. For some reason, I thought that was just like the white foam you got on sea. So I didn't know rubbish was called flotsam and jetsam.
It was, yeah. So back in the 80s, when I was a child, that's what it was called. And in books, it would have beach combing books and, find flotsam and jetsam. And so we'd imagine, great big ships' fenders, where they'd come from, and all this exciting thing. So it formed the backdrop of my childhood, this rubbish on the beach. It was adventurous. And then fast forward, I then had my own children. And we ended up living on an island in Australia. We were in the Great Barrier Reef for a year. And my daughter was 4. And we saw this turtle being released into the ocean. And she said, "Mummy, what was wrong with the turtle?" And we went back to the turtle hospital. We listened to the keeper talk about the problem of plastic in the seas. And then my daughter wanted to pick up all the rubbish that she saw on her beach. And we'd be down there at 6 o'clock in the mornings because it was so flipping hot out there.
Yes. What was it like living on an island in the Great Barrier? What was that like?
Oh, well, everything you imagine. What am I doing back in this country, I wonder?
So apart from the pollution and the plastic, it was paradise, I suppose.
It was paradise, yeah. We were very lucky. We had a view of the sunset and the palm trees. We had banana plants in the garden, and we didn't wear shoes for a year.
How did you get to live there? How did that transpire?
that was just part of our adventurous life that we had out there. We just saw an opportunity and thought we wanted to make the most of it. And actually, it was life-changing. The moment seeing this turtle going into the sea has changed my life. And that wouldn't have happened had we not decided to have this crazy year on this island out there. So we were already living in Australia. We were out there for 10 years, but we just decided before my eldest started school, let's go and do something. And this island opportunity came up. And it was brilliant.
What a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing to do.
And it's in the book. So it's in my very first book. I wanted to write about real places and real things. And I think that's what resonates with the children there. But just finishing off that story with how the book started, my daughter, we then brought her back to this country for a visit. And I took her to my favourite beach. I said, this is the beach I grew up on. Because everyone in Australia, of course, thinks that this country doesn't have any good beaches. It's the first question they ask you. They think they've got the monopoly on beaches.
Well, they're right to some degree.
So I took her to my favourite beach.
That's nonsense, actually. No. Where are the best beaches in the UK, in your opinion?
This was a beach in Wales. So I took her there and I stood at the top of the beach and I said, look at my favourite beach. Isn't it wonderful? And she turned to me at age 5 and she said, Mummy, what a dump. We need to clean it up. And I thought, when I was a child, I didn't see that. I saw excitement. I saw treasures. I saw the rubbish on the beach was part of my childhood. She saw a problem and she wanted to do something about it. And it really resonated with me, the difference between the generations. And she raced down and she picked up all the rubbish. And of course, I then had to carry it back up this hill. And my son was there. He said, I can't wait to get down and do a beach clean. I thought,
tell me, how old is she now?
She's 15 now.
Does she still clean beaches now?
She does.
She does?
Yes. She messaged me. She said, I've just seen your daughter picking up rubbish along the walk to school.
That's brilliant.
Well, there you go.
So just to get a bit deep, is there a new awareness with this super young generation? Have they got a different awareness to us?
This is where it comes from. So this is why these books are so important. She understood, she'd seen firsthand, she'd realised the problem, she wanted to look after animals, and she knew that by picking up a few bits and pieces made a big difference. And actually, she's now looking to go in. We went to look at college courses for her, and she's looking at environmental science and geography. So she's fully aware and immersed in that kind of environmental world, if you like. But it happened naturally, from a very early age. So I just think if you can teach children very gently from a young age about these ideas, then it becomes second nature. She wouldn't give it a second thought. And that's what makes these books really powerful. You're inspiring a whole generation to love our planet and what they can do to look after it.
And based on your own lived experience.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the books. How many you've written? There's about the stories in them.
Yeah, they're all true stories. They're all based on real animals, real actions, real problems, and real outcomes. They are anywhere from age 2 till 11. So, in fact, I started reading one book with my other daughter. I've got 4 children. And when she first started walking, at 17 months, she was quite a late walker, but she went off, she toddled off. And because I'd been reading this story to her, she went and picked up some rubbish, the very first thing, and she picked it up. She said, Mummy, Duffy is the name of my turtle. Bubbish, because she couldn't say rubbish. Mummy, Duffy, Bubbish, bin. And I thought 17 months, she knew rubbish needed to go in the bin because of the book. So really, it's just a very easy framework for parents to engage their children and teachers with these ideas without upsetting or overwhelming them. So coming from a parent myself, it's really important you don't scare the children. You want them to be positive and what can we do and help save Duffy and pick up the rubbish and all this kind of stuff.
No, that's a brilliant way of doing it, because normally things like that would be taught essentially with guilt, wouldn't it? You should pick up your rubbish, and you should pick up your rubbish, but you're absolutely right, and it's that delicate balance which every parent faces, making the children aware, but without terrifying them.
Exactly. And I went into a school actually, and I was doing an assembly, and the teacher came up. She said, I'm really excited to have you here. The children have been really looking forward to it. I showed them in preparation, I showed them a video of a turtle with a straw coming out of its nose and all the blood, and they all started crying. And I thought, that's because they're 5 years old, and you've just shown them a really upsetting, traumatic video. So you don't want to be upsetting, scaring, or traumatizing them. This isn't about eco-warrior. It's nothing to do with that. It's just really simple stories that give them the framework to understand, why are we recycling? Why are we picking up rubbish? Why are we turning off lights? What should we be doing more to help? So I think really gentle.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, picture like that would terrify the average 5-year-old, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bless them. I think the problem, not problem I've got, but my thinking on it was, it's such an overwhelming problem. Maybe you can offer us a counter to this. Well, this is the whole thrust of your work. It's so big, one person can't make a difference. People must say that.
Absolutely.
How would you respond to that?
If you start off with that thought, you would just kind of freeze and forget it, and it's too hard, let's not do anything. So I like to think of it as a journey. You're a journey to becoming more environmentally aware, and you can't go through and just say, right, that's it, we're going to be all eco everything, because it's too much of a step. What got me into it was beach cleaning, which is a really nice thing to do. You're out, going for a walk, you see a few bits, you pick them up, you put it in the bin, and it starts to open your eyes to, what else can I do? That was really easy. It just picked up a few bits of rubbish, and now doesn't that look great? The beach is clean, I've saved some animals, and I've done my bit. Oh, that was really easy.
When I see those pictures, when I see those pictures of animals like with the straw up their nose, or birds caught in fishing wire, it doesn't bring me any joy. It's horrible, and it's unnecessary as well. And it really makes no sense to use the environment we live in as a rubbish dump. It makes sense to take care of the environment we live in, because if we don't, we won't have an environment to live in. So it's kind of common sense. But why has it taken us so long to realize? Why do we struggle with the simplest ideas?
Because I think people think, oh, someone else will do it. That's what I pay taxes for. Someone else will clean that up. But the cost to councils, of course, is millions that could be spent on other things, more teachers, whatever it might be. But picking up rubbish obviously starts with someone throwing rubbish. So the books kind of give the idea, obviously, not to throw rubbish in the first place. And people keep calling for these campaigns, keep Britain tidy. Remember back in the day, they used to have these advertising
with the little
campaigns.
bin logo.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And they don't do anything like that anymore.
No, you're right. My attitude back then was, it's not my terrible thing. So I'm not like it now. I mean, I wouldn't have thought twice about chucking a bit of rubbish out the window while I was driving, or flicking a cigarette out when I used to smoke. I wouldn't have thought twice about that.
That's what I mean.
Now I don't. All
that rubbish I saw on the beach when I was a child, I never picked it up. Didn't even cross my mind. And when I tell the children that, I say I pick it up and I just chucked it back on the beach. You can see their faces just drop, because they're like, how could you do that?
I know.
And I feel bad. It didn't cross our minds. We didn't know. We didn't realise. And of course, now we are realising. Now we are knowing. And now we can do something about it. So
and it doesn't have to be big things. It could just be like a question of just picking something up, or leaving the places you. I mean, I'm not virtue signalling here, but I tend to go for a walk in the morning with a friend of mine, and there was loads of in our local park. There was loads of, I think it'd been probably teenagers partying. There was remnants of that, empty cans and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, right, I'm going to do I'm going to pick them up. So no, wait for it. This is a typical Neil moment. Right. I'm going to pick them up. And my friends all very impressive. No, I'm going to do it properly. So I went around and put it all in this paper bag that I had, a bit like the Marks and Spencer's paper ones, which are more environmentally friendly, of course. And I picked it up in a nice full bag. Then the bottom collapsed because one of the drinks leaked, and all the rubbish went straight on the floor. So I came back the next day with a bag, and someone else had done it. But there we go. But the intention was there. But it hasn't put me off doing it.
Neil.
It hasn't put me off doing it in the future, to be fair.
Right, there we go. So it's that little kind of awareness. I just always have a load of dog poo bags in my pocket, just a few bits here and there, chuck it in the dog poo bag and chuck it in the nearest bin. It's easy. Paper bags. I saw someone, funnily enough, she was carrying her shopping yesterday in the rain down here in Cornwall, and everything fell out the bottom of the paper bag.
It wasn't my greatest thinking, to be honest with you. Is that where you're based in Cornwall, are you? What part?
The problem is, Neil, someone would have come along and found that little pile of rubbish, and then who's left this? And they'd have got all cross at that person.
Or even worse, someone watching that awful man. Look what he's just done. I'll be like, no, you don't understand. You're the problem today.
It's about being, it's about being realistic in what we can achieve, all of us. So we're not all going to pick out.
And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. I think that's the takeaway I'd like to take from this. And it should feel good. Asa Don Brown, who is our psychology man in the USA and Canada, out of the mouth of babes, love it. Yeah, it sounds like you've been an incredible example of conservation and environmentalism. So lots of love coming in from the USA there. And Leslie Jones, I wouldn't have been happy if my 5-year-old had cried seeing that video. No, it's understandable. It's just, I think I've been to some of those sort of personal development seminars where they try and convince you to change your diet. And okay, this isn't for kids; it's for adults. But some of the pictures they showed, they're shocking, and it didn't work. It just was horrible.
Well, the other thing is, Neil, is nobody really likes being told what to do by another adult. You know, if I came to you and said, right, Neil, you need to get rid of all of that stuff, you know, everything in your house that's bad for the environment, you need to walk to work, all these things. If I suddenly turned around and said all that to you, you'd just be like, not interested. Who are you to tell me? But if a child came up that you knew, whether it was a child in your family or a neighbour's child or whoever it might be, your own child, if they turned up and said, have you ever, you know, we need to stop throwing that rubbish out the window, or can we recycle, or can we change what we buy so it's not loads of plastic in our food or something. So if your own child says something to you, those little kind of drip feed comments start to make a difference. So that's why it's really powerful, because it's not just teaching the children, that's then feeding back to the families. So
little Buddhas.
Yeah, it's like reverse pester power. There's an example in a shop, you know, 5-year-old went up to their nanny and said, Nanny, we don't want to buy these anymore because that's not very good for the environment. And so Nanny had to swap and you know, make the change then. But she wouldn't have done that for anyone else.
No. I love that reverse pester power.
Yeah.
I've never heard it put that way before. I really like that. So all these stories, that they're based on true stories. What are some of your titles?
So I've got one
Blazing
about
Battle I can read.
Yep, that's a koala in Australia who that's a bushfire. I've got orangutans and palm oil deforestation, bees and habitat loss, polar bear climate change, and hedgehog and litter, fishing nets. And I've got a new one I'm thinking about. It's a big issue at the moment, is river pollution. So I'm hopefully doing one on that soon. So that will be coming out. But they've reached about 2 million children in schools. So they're a massive school teaching resource. Yeah, I work with lots of local Lions clubs, Rotary clubs, businesses to help sponsor the books into their local schools. So you imagine you've got 10 schools in a town. That's about 2,000 or 3,000 children. They're all learning about the issues at the time. There's kind of a buzz begins in the town about it, and little changes can make a difference. You know, 8 years ago, I think I went into one pub and said, hello, I want to talk to you about plastic straws. And she said, let me stop you there. I got a letter from an 8-year-old that made me feel so guilty. I've already switched to paper. And that was because of my book about the turtle and the straws. So the children are then writing letters to the local businesses, asking them to kind of make a change. And so these books have been a real key instrument in raising awareness and making a difference.
That's really inspiring, isn't it? Really,
it's
really
been a
inspiring.
one woman show. It's been a mission.
You are a bit of you're a pioneer. I don't remember any teaching at my school about this, about environmentalism. Nothing.
Not really, not at all. I remember the greenhouse effect, probably when I was in secondary school. It was the big, with the ozone layer was a big concern then. Acid rain, we got talked about.
Acid rain, I remember that.
Yeah.
But we were just taught there was acid rain and it's a bad thing. That's what we were taught. No one said, and here's what we could do about it.
Yes, Neil, that's the difference.
And no one, and absolutely no one said, and here's what you individually can do to help to contribute about it. It was like, this is acid rain and that's bad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've never thought about that, but you're right. We were never told what we could do. You know, even now on TV, I'm just thinking Blue Peter, they do a green badge for green, you know, projects that children can do. So I don't know if they're still doing that, because I think they've come off the air. I think, or are they only on streaming now? I'm not sure. But
I think they're still online. I haven't watched that for years.
yeah,
Philip Harling, remembering the short government educational films back on TV in the early 60s, always shown around children's programs. Follow the country code and find a bin to put it in. I remember Follow the country code. Always shut the gate.
yeah,
Don't annoy
that's
the
right.
in the field. That's that sort of thing.
But people living in the country, where I live, is pretty rural.
You're down in Cornwall, right?
Down in Cornwall, yeah. And people are up in arms about the state of the countryside, especially after summer. Go to a beach, it's full of rubbish. People have left, go inland. There's just things haven't been looked after, gates left open, whatever it is. There's so many people now exploring these rural areas that perhaps didn't before. And quite rightly, they need to get out, and it's brilliant to see them all enjoying what I take for granted. But people haven't been taught how to protect that environment. So,
could you ever live in a city again?
Probably not.
No,
probably not,
didn't
because
think so.
it's interesting when you're surrounded. Like all my social media feed now is quite kind of environmental heavy based, and it can be quite overwhelming if you see that all the time. So for me, I make a huge point every day of getting outside in nature, whatever the weather. I'm lucky I've got a dog. She sat with me here at work now. She wishes I was outside with her now, but this morning I went for a walk along the beach and climbed over the rocks and things. So did a litter pick as I went. But it's really important for me that I get out in nature. And I know you can do that still in cities. I know there's beautiful places. We were up in Birmingham just at Easter and taking my kids to Lickey Hills Park. And, you've got that opportunities within there. They loved it. They'd never seen anything like it. So,
no.
For us living here, it's fun to go and visit the cities, but I doubt I could probably
if you're in Birmingham again, if you like Indian food, try Akbar's restaurant. It's incredible.
There we go. Thanks for that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Google it. It's absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely massive Indian restaurant. Absolutely loved it. Did you do Cadbury World and all that sort of stuff while you were up
We
there?
didn't. It was the cost of it. I've got 4 children, and so we just.
Oh, goodness,
I tend to do free outdoor stuff with them all the time. So drag them on another walk.
what a cool mum. I mean, and you've not only inspired your own children, you've inspired millions just by following your passion. We talk about that quite a lot on this show, mental health, following your passion, all that sort of thing. And here it is, living example on your screens right now, ladies and gentlemen. So congratulations for all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, and congratulations on your super cool and highly aware kids.
They are, actually, and it got annoying at one point. My daughter was forever pointing out rubbish every time we went on a walk. Sometimes I didn't want to pick up rubbish.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway.
Oh, goodness me.
But they do inspire. It's funny, you talk to a lot of people who start up a business, and often has been inspired by their kids. So I think don't underestimate these children. They've got a lot to say.
No, I think we underestimate them all the time, and I think we do ourselves a disservice when we do. Very, very much so. It's been lovely talking to you, Ellie.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I really like the cut of your jib, because you're really passionate about what you do, but you're not preachy like so many of these people can be. You've really got the balance absolutely right.
Thanks, Neil. Well, it's being practical. We all thanks very much. Someone's just put up a nice comment there. They wholeheartedly agree, and it is. You don't want to be preached at. It's not the answer at all. It's every little bit that we can do bit by bit that makes a difference. So if I leave you with that thought, what could you do that's different to help look after our animals and our environment? Then
I remember hearing a lovely story. I think the metaphysical writer Wayne Dyer quoted this one, and it was called Starfish. Are you familiar with this one? There's a guy walking on the beach and with someone, and there's tons of starfish washed up and dying, and he picked up one and threw it back, and the guy said, "What difference can that possibly make?" And he said, "Well, it made a difference to that one."
Yeah.
So it's
you are right, and I do actually subconsciously internalize that thought process, because I have heard that. And you're right. What difference does it make picking up this one piece of rubbish? You think that makes a difference to that animal that would have eaten it or been trapped in it. So what difference does it make throwing away this one, recycling this one can? That makes a difference, because it stops another can being made from
exactly
new materials.
Can I hear the seabirds in the background?
Yes, you can. Yeah, I'm just
Beautiful.
actually, my office looks out on the Beyond Paradise set. They were all here last week filming.
I love that program. Do you like that?
Yeah. But they were just right here, right outside my office window. But yes, the seagulls, I see them eating rubbish all the time. Silly things.
Yeah, I know. It's been lovely, Ellie. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Cheers, Neil.
Would you like a copy of this footage? Can I send it to you?
Oh, yes. If you've got it, yes, I'd love that. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's all recorded. So if you just ping me your email address, I'll ping it over to you by WeTransfer.
That's great. Yeah, if anyone would like to find out more about the books, do have a look at my website. It's full of free teaching resources there, wildtribeheroes.com, and also on Facebook and Instagram at Wild Tribe Heroes. Thank you.
Ellie, it's been lovely. Good afternoon to you. Take care.
Then. Okay, bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. What a show today. 2 super interesting guests. Any improvement on Greta is good for the environment, Leslie. Yeah, she's a little bit, I don't know what word I would use. Forthright, maybe. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for tuning in. Russ and the gang will be back on Friday with Phil Dave, the king of the Croats, with Jonathan Baz, theatre critic to the stars, and Chantal Ricard telling you all the cool things to watch on TV. And there's much good TV to watch. But what an inspiring show. We've had mental health, we've had comedy, we've had the environment. That, friends, is the Midday Show. And I thank you very much indeed for tuning in. I'm Neil Long, and I'll catch you next Monday. I won't be here next Wednesday, by the way. Got a little sabbatical, which I do need to tell Russ about, so I'll email him now about that. All right, take care. Good afternoon. See ya.